All right, so it's the last nice day here for a little while. I thought I might as well jump out of the house and get to review this Sandmarc compact tripod in its natural habitat. Let's take a little bit of a look. All right, so before I get started on this review, I just want to say that Sandmarc did send me this tripod in exchange for a video about it. Having said that, this video isn't sponsored. I am not receiving any money for this, and also these opinions are my own opinions. They don't get to see this video before it goes out, and they don't get to influence what I say either. These opinions are really my own, and I do think this tripod is a very handy piece to have in your kit. I will say though, the links down the bottom to purchase this tripod are affiliate links, so they do help out the channel. If you enjoy the content and you enjoy the review and you want to get this tripod, please do use those links below. It does go to help out the channel and keep me making these videos. Other than that, let's jump into the review. So to begin this review, I want to focus on the positives. And one of the things I really love about this tripod is that it gets very compact. Obviously, like the name suggests, it is quite a small tripod. It fits in a bag nice and snug, and it isn't going to take up much space compared to something else, like a full-size tripod like what I've got here in front of me, or even some of the travel-size tripods, which can still be a little bit lengthwise, and therefore they will take up a bit more space in a bag, or they may not fit in a bag. You might have to carry them separately. This thing is definitely going to fit in a lot of bags, so it's going to make it very easy for you to carry around with you. It is also quite sturdy too. It does weigh a little bit. It's not too heavy, but at the same time, it's not light. And I actually appreciate that about this tripod, because really, when it comes to tripods, its main job is to act as a support. Sometimes the heavier the tripod is, the better, because it's going to be a better support tool. And in this case, having a bit of heftier materials on this tripod makes it feel more premium, makes it feel like it's able to sort of take a little bit more adventure. But at the same time, it also makes it feel like it's going to stay put when you put a phone on it, and you can kind of walk away and have confidence that it's going to be all right. The tripod can also support a little bit of weight. It's rated for about 3 kilos, which when you think about it is actually quite heavy for such a small little tripod. That means you can literally mount a DSLR camera with a lens on top of it if you really want to. But what I found in my testing is that if you do use it with something like this A7S, which I'm using at the moment with a 24 to 105mm lens, is that it tends to be quite front heavy, that particular setup. And obviously the little base plate for this tripod is quite small and sits further back. It sits on the camera itself. So if you have quite a front heavy setup, you want to make sure you extend out the legs the full length, just to make sure that the tripod doesn't end up falling forward. Also really do like the ball head too, and that's something that as a videographer I deal a lot with fluid head tripods, obviously for smooth pans and tilts. But this ball head is actually really quite nice because it allows you to get the angle really quickly and easily for photos, obviously more than video, but you can use it for video too if it's obviously just a static shot. And I really do like the fact, again, it's quite robust. It does have a spirit level as well, mainly for forward and back sort of movement rather than sort of lateral side to side. The other thing I love about the ball head, and this is actually something that came a little bit later in terms of my review, is it just comes in handy. You can actually unscrew it from the tripod itself, so it's actually not built into the tripod. What I really like about that is you can then mount it to other things. For example, I actually used it with another tripod recently to get some shots with my phone, some vertical video. Taking out this ball head and putting it onto a tripod actually meant that I was able to just have a full range of movement on that tripod head, and I really enjoyed using it in that kind of configuration to make some Instagram story content, TikTok, things like that, Reels. It's really useful. So even when you're not using this tripod, you can still get use out of the ball head too, and I really loved it about this particular tripod. The cool thing about this tripod too is it has a number of different adjustments in terms of height, and this middle center column you can actually sort of adjust to be up and down depending on what you're looking for. But you can also then pull out these legs a little bit further if you want the tripod to sit more on the ground. So there's a lot of different height adjustment in this tripod. The maximum height is about 63 centimeters, which to be honest isn't very tall, but I guess that's the point of it being a compact tripod. So another thing about this tripod is it does come with a smartphone mount as well, which is actually really handy. Obviously this is more designed to be used with smartphones rather than big DSLR cameras like what I'm filming with at the moment. But at the same time, not all mounts are created equal. I've been used to using a lot of really cheap smartphone mounts and really don't like them very much, to be honest. They feel cheap, they feel very plasticky, they don't feel very secured. I literally once did put a car mount on the side of my car and use a cheap iPhone mount. Thankfully didn't regret doing that because it worked out, but again, wouldn't recommend it. Whereas the Sandmarc one is actually made of metal, so again, it feels really solid. It does actually have a hot shoe mount too, so if you want to put a light or a microphone on top of the camera, you can do that really easily. And as I said, it just feels very robust and it works really well with this tripod. However, there are some things that I've obviously found over the last few weeks which have made this tripod, I guess, a little bit more difficult to use in some cases. And I obviously want to let you know about them. They are fairly minor downsides, but again, just important to mention so you're aware of them. The first one is the tripod plate can be a little bit finicky, especially when you're trying to hand tighten it. The actual plate itself and the screw is recessed into that tripod plate, but it just means when you go to hand tighten it with maybe a finger, you're gonna struggle a little bit. Generally speaking, as you're trying to mount things, the screw will go towards the back of the tripod plate, and towards the back of the tripod plate is a thread, which is designed to take the screw out if you would like. The only issue I've found with this is as I'm trying to screw things in a lot of the time, it sort of falls back there, it gets a little bit stuck, and you might have to push it up again and try and like wrestle with it a little bit. I have found that's happened to me more than once, and as a result, I've generally carry around a little small rig flathead, so I can just go ahead and tighten it in when I need to. Again, this is not a deal breaker by any means, and it's something that with every tripod, you should actually be using a flathead screwdriver or a coin or whatever else you have on you to make sure it's really tight and secures your camera. But it is sometimes just a little bit of a finicky wrestle to try and get that onto whatever camera you're using. The other downside I've found, which again isn't a major downside, but it is something to be aware of, is that there is no automatic locking mechanism for this particular tripod. So a lot of my tripods I'm used to putting the camera on, the tripod plate locks in, and that means the camera isn't going anywhere. So worst case scenario, if I just walked away, the camera isn't going to slide off or anything else. This you actually have to hand tighten. And if you don't hand tighten it, as I have done once before, the camera will just fall off. So again, really important that you get used to it when you're using this tripod, you get used to putting the plate in and tightening it straight away. Make sure it's secure. Again, don't assume that the tripod plate is just going to stay on there if it isn't screwed in. Now, obviously as well, this is a photography tripod, so it's really not designed to be used as a video tripod. There are no smooth pans and tilts when you're using a ball head on this. Again, I don't think this is something that anyone who's buying this is going to expect it's going to do that. But at the same time, again, I reckon this is probably better for photography purposes rather than video purposes. The last downside of this tripod, which again, depending on how you look at it, might not be a downside given what it's advertised as, is the height is quite short, coming in at about 63 centimeters at a maximum height. That means for things like what I'm doing right now, where I'm filming myself standing up, that's gonna be very difficult to do on a tripod like this unless you are 63 centimeters tall. Probably means you're a kid, not a full-grown adult. So I would definitely say that this tripod has more limited use cases in that respect. But at the same time, it is just one of those things that's quite handy to have. And again, if you're photographing landscapes, potentially you don't need to be that tall. Again, depending on the landscapes. Sandmarc always likes to advertise this, you know, you're next to water or a lake. And often those times I found, yeah, potentially you don't need to get up this high in order to get a great shot. And sometimes actually being a bit lower to the ground, you might actually be able to capture some unique angles you couldn't elsewise. Even at the shorter maximum length, I still feel like this tripod is quite useful in a lot of situations, especially as I've found over the last few weeks as a tabletop tripod. Tabletop tripods are very useful for me in terms of just filming myself, using it as, for example, like my iPhone as a webcam, using it on a tabletop to film something facing down. So I really feel like this tripod is quite useful in a lot of different scenarios. And once you have it, you have it in your kit, you're gonna find a lot of uses for it in terms of, as I said, that ball mount, being able to take off a few times and actually use it in different scenarios. Overall, this tripod comes in at about $100 US, which, to be honest, looking around, there are some competitors in that space too, which do have tripods which are quite a bit taller or can get quite a bit taller. But as I said, they'll often be a little bit heavier in a lot of cases, and they'll also be a bit longer as well. So having this little small compact tripod is going to be useful, as I said, for a certain amount of people who know that they don't need anything that's usually taller than 60 centimeters or so. You're often photographing down at that kind of level, or you're using that to pan the camera up. Obviously, if you know that 63 centimeters is the right height for you, the max height, I should say, then this is a really great tripod to get. As I said, it's very well made, has a lot of really good features about it. It works really well with Sandmarc's overall system in terms of their smartphone, their iPhone sort of ND filters, their cases. It's sort of designed as a part of that ecosystem, but at the same time, I've been getting a lot of use for it, not just for my iPhone, even for my Sony camera as well. So it's just something nice to have in the kit. And as I said, given how compact it is, it kind of makes taking a tripod a no-brainer. So I hope you've enjoyed the review. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. As I said, you can find the link to this product down below too. If you want to purchase it, that will go to help support the channel. So thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and I'll see you all in the next one. All right, so it's the last nice weather day here for a little while. I thought